My name is Average Joe, and I'm a proud geek with expertise in movies, superheroes, and animation.
And my name is Pixel Patch. I'm a joyful geek with an expertise in gaming, both tabletop and video.
Our mission is to bring nerd culture to the masses.
And by sticking it all under the microscope.
Welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast.
Movies, TV, manga, comic books, or is that graphic novels, cartoons, groups, that's animation, Disney, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Digimon, and Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Nintendo, Cinematic Universes, Marvel, DC, Justice League, is Batman, Leagues with Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Avengers, Iron Man, Captain Jack, Loki, Spider-Man, and Hulk and Logan, X-Men, Battlers, Allen, Galaxy, Guardians, Star Trek, Prick, Prick, Card, and Janeway, Nerds and Geeks from Gather Around, and join them in the Big Bad Jar, Average Joe and Pixel Patch, they peek under the microscope.
Hello there, and welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast, where we put nerd culture under the microscope.
And this week we have a friend to drag that nerd culture under the microscope with us. Very useful, though. It's hard doing the work with just two people. You'd be surprised.
Yes, science is not my expertise, and certainly neither is the subject matter for today's episode. So, Pixel, first of all, welcome back. You've been away for a while, and
sick and broken, but still fighting.
Even getting here today was a bit of a challenge.
All of our bus stops in the downtown area were shut down for tests of our never-to-be-seen train. One day.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And as you alluded to, we have a special guest today, and we're continuing this trend of having brand new special guests. So this person's actually been a part of the podcast for years because she's been my Disney informant. And many times when we've talked about...
You have informants? I was never told this.
Well,
I'm imagining back alley meetups where you're dropping off little notes and be like, meet me for Disney information around the corner.
I mean, that's kind of what it ends up being like. On certain occasions, I've included her rankings in the rankings of Disney movies we've done.
Nice.
She was a consultant on the Mary Poppins episode. So you've been a part of the podcast before, but this is your first formal appearance. And we'll just get right into it. So we have Ms. Diz with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Pixel Patch and Average Joe.
Does the Miss Diz stand for Miss Disney?
Yes, it does.
Ah, yes, I got it in one.
Although I'm married, so I don't know that I can be a true Miss, which is why I went for the Ms.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That actually works. I like that.
Every time we have a new guest on the show, we always ask two questions. So hopefully you're ready for this. What kind of nerd or geek are you?
I've thought a lot about this because I've wanted to be on your show for the longest time.
Yes.
I always tell Average Joe, I need to be on your show. And then, anyways, here I am. Dreams do come true. So, primarily, and first off, I am a Disney, I think in your, I think you would call it a geek. I don't think I would be classified as a nerd as per your...
That's the internet. It's not mine. But
okay. Well, you're...
the metric.
You are evangelistic in your Disney love. You share it with other people.
Oh.
Which would make you a geek.
Yes. Yes, I do love it. I'm also not... I feel like the way you described nerd in your nerd versus geek
episode,
you... I don't know. I don't feel like I am solo in my love of Disney. My love of Disney is very communal and shared with other people. So,
which makes a lot of sense for Disney itself, right? You're hey, let's get together and watch a Disney movie and enjoy this.
Yes, I've instigated many a night of Disney movies.
First, we were just hanging out, and then she came in and just instigated this 5-movie binge watch. That was the best kind of instigation. Congrats.
Well, not 5-movie binge watch, but
I mean,
one-off.
Awesome.
But I have many other loves. I am a Marvel superheroes lover. I'm just a superheroes lover, I should say, because I also really appreciated the new Aquaman movie that came out. I just watched that this week.
It's got some really good visuals. Holy cow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed
the best live-action Little Mermaid you'll ever get.
Get the red hair and everything.
Fishman, actually.
He's a fish boy. Are you excited for Endgame then?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not.
Because it's the end?
I hated the way that the last one ended.
That's fair.
I was not happy with that.
You could say you didn't feel good about the ending, Mr. Stark?
It was not a feel good. I severely disliked it. What I did like in the recent Marvel canon was the Black Panther movie. I thought that was amazing. That's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies, actually.
Nice.
I digress. I'm also a Downton Abbey fan. So
you know about the movie coming out.
Joe, I knew about the movie the second it hit.
She stole the
Social
movie and had to
media.
give it back because she knew it would be more enjoyable with other people.
Okay, my name's Average Joe, for the record.
Average Joe.
Average Joe.
AJ.
Go on, say it at the joke you make every time. The average amount of times.
The average amount of times that I'll say it will one day average out to me being correct.
Okay.
Sorry, Average Joe.
That's okay. I don't think anyone who's been a guest on the show has ever remembered that.
Even the person who's co-hosting the show is not even good at this, so it's excusable.
But all that to say, okay, what kind of nerd or geek do you want to be? Is there anything that you would like to spend time in that you're not spending time in?
If you had access to anything, except the Tesseract, we can't let you have that. I mean, we could. We could lend it out.
You think I have it?
What? You think
It's in the guy's glove.
Yeah.
I think there is stuff that I would like to be a nerd or geek about. I just haven't found it yet because all of the things that I am a hardcore lover about has already had its day, and it's like, Downton Abbey. I also really love Chuck. Chuck is
that's really good.
Excellent series.
Never seen it.
Very clever writing. Like, it's like super, super cool.
Also kind of has that nerdy vibe. So if you're a nerd lover and lover of all things nerd, you would really appreciate
Well, that's
Chuck.
on my list.
That explains why you like Tangled, because Zachary Levi's in Tangled.
Actually,
And Chuck.
Yes. So that is part of my love for Tangled, but that's also why I'm very excited to see the new Shazam movie.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be fun. Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So for Tangled, for me, always had a very Emperor's New Groove vibe in terms of the pacing of the jokes. Does that make sense? Because I don't meet enough Disney people who know what I'm talking about. Like, Emperor's New Groove has this, like, every 10 seconds there's a joke going on. Tangled was the closest I've seen in a modern Disney movie pull that off.
I don't know that it's like Emperor's New Groove-esque. I do know what you're talking about in Emperor's New Groove, how it's like, okay, every second
We've got
line
we got a physical joke going on. We've got a line. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I don't know that I would say that Tangled has that specifically.
Has that joke level to it. Well, that
Yes.
works for me.
Yeah.
I had to ask the question.
There you go.
But I can say it's probably the closest, I would say, because Frozen isn't like that.
No, no, it's not.
Well, Ms. Diz, we're happy to have you on the show today because as it was pulled out of the batch chart last week, we are talking about Disney princesses today.
It'll be the discussion.
Ooh.
Oh. Terrible puns. All right, we're good.
We're not going to do the news today, but just to acknowledge, yesterday was Batman's 80th anniversary / birthday.
And he's still probably kicking butt in the old folks' home. So
Yeah. So,
Guaranteed.
I mean, this podcast wouldn't exist without Batman because there wouldn't be a Bat Jar without Batman. So, happy 80th, Batman.
No, it couldn't.
Oh, wow. But yeah, we're talking about Disney princesses today. And there's surprisingly a lot to talk about with this concept of the Disney princess. So what I want to start with is actually going over what are the official criteria of a Disney princess, because like, yes, the term princess has existed long before Disney, and yes, there are lots of characters who appear in Disney media who are princesses, but the Disney company and the brand of Disney princesses that exists now actually has like a certain criteria that exist. So as we talk about the different types of Disney princesses and the traits that are kind of common among them, we're going to get into like why certain characters are excluded and why some are included. So
I'll take all the information because I know nothing.
Okay, so here are the rules.
All right.
Number 1, the character is human.
Dang it. All right. So no xenomorph alien Disney princess now that Disney's bought that out. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, the acquisitions. But yeah, so officially the character has to be a human being.
Okay.
So characters like the Xenomorph Queen or Nala in The Lion King
Okay.
would be considered ineligible to be, or even Dot from A Bug's Life.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
Those characters be considered ineligible. I think this is a mean criteria. I don't understand why.
I disagree with it too.
So you think the animals?
I think Maid Marian should definitely be in there.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Yep. Oh, that was such a good movie.
But I understand why they do it, because they're all humanoid people, like the official ones. So
It's kind of hard to, like, it's an easier way to brand something and easier
when
way
they're
to
all people,
yeah. So you have like 10 people standing in a row and someone in a lion costume, like, hey.
yeah, it would be a little weird.
And
Yeah.
they emphasize or human-like because Ariel was formerly not a human.
Right. We're letting fish people into our princess criteria. What is this?
Second criteria: a character has to have a primary role in an animated Disney or Pixar film.
Okay.
So this is probably the biggest way you can exclude characters that have appeared in live-action films. So I think it's Giselle. Is that the name of the princess in Enchanted? I mean, that's kind of
Yes, that is Princess Giselle.
okay.
So what, like, it has to be in an animated feature?
Yeah.
Is that okay? That
So
makes a lot
this
more
is
But
the-
she was animated at the beginning of that film, so
Yeah,
that's
so
where
maybe okay, she's probably not the best
I
example,
take beef on that.
but this would be where you
How
can
much
exclude.
beef? Medium rare?
Well done.
Oh, all right. Well,
Well
done,
done,
beef.
beef.
Nice.
But this is where you could exclude a lot of the more the acquisition characters that we'll talk about later. I mean, it makes sense that this originates with Disney's animation because Disney started out with animation, so
Right.
makes total sense. 3, the character has not been introduced in a sequel. What does this mean? It means
Wait. Oh, okay.
like they can't be, their first appearance can't be in a sequel.
Right. So Little Mermaid's daughter,
Melody.
There.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna walk away. So yes, Melody Pond,
Or,
Doctor Who. Got it. Not a Disney princess.
Kiara, who's like the daughter of Simba and Nala in The Lion King, but she doesn't fit because she's not a human. So
Wow, we're already working on these rules. It works.
Yeah.
There is a system.
So, do you agree with this criteria? Like, I understand a lot of the direct-to-video, like the Disney sequels, are kind of lesser in nature, but if we follow this criteria all the way through, it means that there's like a whole bunch of characters that wouldn't be considered princesses here.
If you want to set up rules, then we can go by any sort of rules. So if you want to say that those aren't Disney princesses, I think they're Disney princesses, but they're not part of the official Disney princess canon, which I can get into my views of that later.
Yeah. Have there been any that? Well, once we go through all the rules, have there been any that have broken the rules? Like, I'll have you think about it. Well, okay, perfect.
None of the official ones break the rules because that's why they're official. Like,
Well, I wonder if even Disney would bend it. Like, that would be really interesting.
it's hard to say.
I think they're looking at bending it from what I've researched a little bit.
Huh.
Rule 4: the character has either been born royal, married royal, or has performed an act of heroism. So-
Wasn't the last one?
They're considered a national hero.
Oh,
So
what?
it's
Okay.
They basically created that criteria for Mulan because she has never even met the emperor of China, but she's never been royal herself.
You touched the hem of the emperor's clothes.
Yeah. So there are lots of characters in Disney films that might end up able to get into the Disney princess grouping because they perform this act of heroism.
All right. So if I wear a wig, perform an act of heroism in an animated feature, I can be a Disney princess.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say they have to be female, so I guess you could.
Wait, that's not one of the rules.
No.
My
says-
dreams can come true.
It just says they have to be human or human-like.
All right, we've just blown this wide open. You do not need to be female to be a Disney princess. All right, for the
I
next.
think it's in the name. You would be a Disney prince.
Ah, man. I mean, what if I perform an act of heroism while wearing a wig, though?
You'd still be a prince.
Dang.
The 5th rule is kind of an unofficial one, and I find this very interesting. This isn't something that they would publish as like, oh, here's the 5th rule, the criteria for being Disney princess. But the 5th unofficial rule that is basically followed in all these cases is that your movie has to be a success.
Oh.
In other words, Kida from Atlantis: The Lost Empire or Princess Ilanwe from The Black Cauldron they would never consider putting them in the line of Disney princesses because they're so obscure and they have such a...
Atlantis is considered obscure?
I had the same reaction.
What?
It
I
bombed
had
at the
the same
box
reaction.
office.
Really?
Yeah, for what it cost to make.
It was so good.
It was excellent.
No,
I
listen,
thoroughly
I
enjoyed
will
it.
sing the praise of the movie forever. It's a great film,
but apparently.
but it didn't do well financially.
That's news
So
to
from
me.
a-
I was shocked.
From a business perspective, that basically means that the brand is brought down by these things that are perceived as
we can't have lesser princesses.
But then it goes the other
brand.
way as well. If a movie is so successful that they want to sort of keep it on its own, which is at least the things I'm looking at say that Anna and Elsa and Moana haven't been inducted into the official line of Disney princesses yet. And the thinking is that their own brands, like Frozen and Moana, are so big on their own
that they don't need the Disney princess kind of.
Yes, they don't need the Disney princesses to sell, but also if you were to put like the Frozen characters in the other lineup of Disney princess toys, everyone would just buy the Anna and Elsa ones. They wouldn't buy the others.
That makes sense.
So it's an interesting situation. And that goes back to comic books, believe it or not, because when the Justice League first came out, Batman and Superman were considered members, but they didn't appear in any of the stories because the editors of the Batman and Superman comics wanted to make sure that people read the Batman and Superman comics.
Right.
Because they were both incredibly successful, and they were afraid that if they put Batman, Superman, and Justice League more, it meant that kids would just pick up Justice League instead of Batman and Superman comics.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think they would have sold more Justice League and continue to have sold the Superman, Batman.
Their thinking is
canons.
that kids only have so much money to spend, so it's like they want to protect those specific brandings.
But it ended up biting them in the butt in the 80s and 90s, but they're coming back.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure you have opinions on this, Ms. Diz, this unofficial criteria.
I do have opinions. Yes.
Like a bird.
Do you want to share them with us?
Well, I would just like to say that I have other criteria that I actually hold as more official than those ones that I...
Go for it.
Because, and we don't have to, like, we can talk about this, but this is just kind of where some of my viewpoints come from. Because I'm not only like a Disney, like, animation fan or geek or nerd or however you want to phrase it. Like, I'm Disney large scale geek nerd, like in the context of Disney World and like the whole Disney experience. So, and where I'm leading to with that is that the Disney princesses that I consider official are the ones that have been inducted into Disney World and given an official welcome at Disney World. So I can get into my list.
Sure, let's
do it.
Actually official in my point of view.
So you're basically breaking away from the officials. You're gonna give us your own rules.
So in terms of like the toys, there's their own like Disney princesses and stuff like that, and then there's the induction, which is a different list then. So if we compared your list with their rules list, there would be a few differences.
Yes,
Okay,
because
cool.
For the record, it's not my list; it's Disney World's list. It's
Ooh,
when
okay.
Disney
They're
creates a
contradicting
new
themselves.
movie. No. So these are rules. I don't know that who it's put out by. I too found those in my research of Disney and
I think this is
what
related
constitutes
specifically
a
to
real
the
Disney
princess like line of products.
Oh, okay.
So like the toys you see in the store or the books or whatever. I think
The
that
Disney Princess franchise.
yeah.
Okay. In Disney World, when they make a new movie, such as Frozen, they welcome and they have an official welcome of the princesses into the Disney World. And that's when they're considered an official Disney princess. So they had one of those for Merida in 2013. They had Anna and Elsa welcomed into the Disney World at 2014.
Did they bring in Vanellope von Schweetz? That's all I need to know right now.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
She would fit most of the criteria.
Yeah.
I don't know Vanellope. I have to confess that right now.
You haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph?
Wreck-It Ralph, no.
Or Ralph Breaks the Internet?
I have seen the Disney Princess clip. That was about it.
Number 2 is not as good as number 1. Number 1's definitely worth sitting down and watching. Like, it's just a fun movie.
I just haven't had the opportunity to watch it. It hasn't been like
Pause the podcast.
No.
I know we have things to do. I'm gonna do.
All right,
quick.
so let's go through your list or your criteria.
Let's do it.
Well, there would be, I think, what are the classical or golden age princesses that you explored in your Golden Age
Golden Age episode.
So
Golden Girls episode.
Snow White, Cinderella, Aurora, and then what's the Silver Age that you?
I broadly
talked
defined the
about?
Disney's. We haven't actually had a conversation about that era yet. The like kind of
we
like
haven't.
1960. It's still in the Bachelor, but like that era from 1961 to 1988.
So what was the other age that you talked about? The Bronze Age?
We talked about the Renaissance.
Oh, the Renaissance. Okay.
The Disney
The
Renaissance.
bronzessance. The bronze sauce.
Yeah.
Okay. And so those were.
You know, actually, during like the we'll call it the Silver Age of Disney, there really weren't many princesses. I think Princess Ilanwe from the Black Cauldron is probably one of the only ones.
Wow.
Because that period is where Disney's history really moved away from telling fairy tales. You know, they went more towards doing things like the Jungle Book and Robin Hood and the Aristocats. You know, like all this stuff.
Aristocats.
Oliver and Company, The Great Mouse Detective. You know.
Great Mouse Detective was fantastic.
Those were good movies.
Yeah, but they're not movies with princesses in them. So.
Right.
Right, Marion.
But that's not a princess. That's just a.
She's the niece of King Richard.
Oh,
Is she?
That's
Yeah.
a stretch.
That's not a stretch. It's online.
So
I know it's a stretch. but
basically,
consider
if she
the niece
kills
of-
enough people, she can be a princess. But she wouldn't do that. Sorry.
But yeah, so in terms of like Disney's Silver Age, there aren't really any princess characters that show up outside of the ones I just mentioned.
Right. So then the Renaissance era would be people like Pocahontas, Jasmine, Ariel, Belle.
So that's like late 80s, early 90s kind of thing?
Late 80s to late 90s.
Okay.
So it's about a decade. But you have Mulan and...
Right, Mulan. I'm looking at my list here. That's
Yeah, and then the modern era of Disney began with The Princess and the Frog in 2009.
right. So Princess Tiana, who married into. That's how she falls into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
See,
she
I was
married
curious about that
royalty.
one.
So there are Disney princesses that are considered princess consorts.
Consoles.
Like Belle,
That
Belle
makes sense,
married
yeah.
the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prince Adam.
Yes.
no, the Beast. He's still, she still just calls him that.
People
This is
know
my
him as
husband.
the Beast.
This is my husband,
Well-
the Beast. When they have balls, like
In
just a
Disney's
nice-
Descendants movie, they refer to them as Belle and the Beast. So
Well-
that's how Disney wants to portray.
Please come
That's
to our ball
Prince
and
Adam.
dance and meet the Beast. Also, Princess Belle. What do you have to call me that every time?
Anyway, yeah, so in the modern era, we have Tiana.
Rapunzel, and Anna and Elsa, Merida, Moana, Elena of Avalor, and Sophia the First.
The last
So-
two. Who are those?
So Sophia the First is a TV series that
Okay.
was...
It's a children's children's.
It's
TV
very
series.
much in the branding of the Disney princesses because she's basically a
Children's
character who is learning to be a princess, and the different Disney princesses kind of come in and make guest appearances.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. I don't watch Sophia the First.
Well,
so
I've Wikipedia'd it. I haven't watched it myself. But she's voiced by Ariel Winter from
is she?
Modern Family, and she
Okay.
played Carrie Kelly, Robin in the Dark Knight Returns animated
Okay.
movies. That's
She
her.
also played Dora the Explorer in
The College Humor, yeah.
version of Dora
Which
the
is now
Explorer.
becoming an actual movie.
Well, not that
Well,
version,
no,
but
not that.
yes, but Dora the
That would be
Explorer.
really funny, though.
No, so like by the classic definitions, Sophia and Elena would be excluded because they're from TV shows and not a movie. But you're saying that doesn't matter to you as much?
Well, Elena of Avalor has been officially welcomed into Disney World. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you want to say about that.
So where do they put her in terms of the attractions? Like, see, I don't really know much about Disneyland, Disney World. Like, so they have the princesses working in different attractions, and of course, probably walking throughout the entire park. But would there be a set area for Elena?
I believe she would be in the Disney Princess Hall
Okay.
in Fantasyland.
So they have
in
kind of an umbrella area.
Magic Kingdom.
Okay. So how is that one just that's the only place there's princesses, or are they a little bit everywhere?
They're a little bit everywhere in Disney World. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Nice. So you're just so I'm understanding, you're not proposing that I have a different set of standards by which Disney princesses are evaluated. You're just going off of what the theme parks actually acknowledge as a princess.
Exactly.
Interesting, because this gets into different variations of the topic. Because certainly, if we just go off of what the toy brand and the Disney Princess franchise it defines as they have a set, they only want to include certain characters, and I guess that's probably from a business perspective. But in terms of the parks and everything else, they're probably more open to having more characters included that don't necessarily fit the bill. Just a bit of history on the brand, though, I thought was very interesting, is that it really only came about in the early 2000s.
Oh.
Before like 2002, you never saw any of the Disney princesses in the same image.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of crossover wasn't something that happened because it was kind of part of the Disney philosophy at the time that you don't cross-pollinate. Like, every story is its own unique world.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't... They weren't treating everything like a comic book.
And then Kingdom Hearts happened.
Yeah. I don't know if it was because of Kingdom Hearts they did this, but the story goes is this guy who is credited with creating the Disney Princess brand. His name is Andy Mooney. And apparently he was at a Disney on Ice event, and he saw a bunch of girls in the crowd dressed as Disney princesses, and he's just like, why isn't this a thing where they're all together? And I guess Roy Disney, the nephew of Walt Disney, was very opposed to this idea because Disney had this strong...
I'm pretty sure Roy is the brother of
Is he?
Walt Disney.
That makes sense.
Well, whoever Roy is, if he's the brother...
The Roy boy? I will Google it while you keep talking.
Yeah. So Roy Disney...
That's pretty... All right.
Roy Disney was opposed to the idea of...
He'd be really old.
Well, no, this was 2000. He's probably dead by now.
Maybe it is a nephew then. If it.
But all that to say, whoever Roy... You're looking it up. Roy
Yeah.
Disney was opposed to the idea of bringing the princesses together because he felt strongly in the traditional perspective of keeping the franchises separate. And I guess his opinion... What's the real scoop?
Not only is he the brother of Walt Disney, he's his older brother. So he's like crazy old. Died in 1971, so it can't have been the same
Well,
Roy
he probably would have had the philosophy and put his foot down at the time and said, no, we should keep them all separate. And maybe it just continued until Andy.
That
Mooney.
makes sense.
But Roy Disney was actually the one who handled the business side of Walt Disney World Productions.
Oh.
So he would take care of the financial stuff, and Walter Elias Disney would take care of all of the
Creative side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
vision of Walt Disney World.
That's super cool. Yeah, so he died in 1971, and yeah, his ideas must have just stretched on. That's super cool.
But this is where his ideas broke down. The
modern Disney World.
Yeah, so when they announced the Disney Princess brand in 2001, it became very successful, and initially they had characters like Tinkerbell in the mix, but they removed them because I guess they didn't feel like they really meshed well with the others.
When I read that online, I was like, she's not a princess.
She's just some random fairy.
She's the iconic, she's the official character for Magic Kingdom.
Oh.
Because, fun fact, Walt Disney didn't want to put Mickey on there and have Mickey not do as well at the time. So she is the official character for Magic Kingdom.
Which is why like the whole like flying over Walt
the castle.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So he didn't think Mickey would do as well?
He didn't, with his experience with Oswald, he didn't want Disney to have a bad image and then bring the image of the park down with it.
That's
or
amazing.
if the park didn't do as well, he didn't want
Tinkerbell
Mickey
can
to
crash
be
and burn
imposed
with
in
it.
that.
I mean,
No amount of clapping will take you back from where I'm sending you.
I mean, she's performed an act of heroism in the...
But she's not a main character.
She is in the Tinkerbell movies.
Is she a princess?
Which is a fairies franchise that came later, which I think,
Yes.
from what I read online, that's the reason why they took her out of it, because she's the star of her own franchise, which is the Disney Fairies franchise.
Is she like daughter to a queen or anything in like the fairy kingdom? Because I don't really know anything.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I've sat through one of the Tinkerbell movies and I can't remember.
I sat through a Barbie movie. That's about the closest I've gotten.
I looked at the book in a store once. That's all I know about the
Tinkerbell.
fairies.
Okay, well, maybe there's a good chance to bring up the fact that since 2009, Disney has basically acquired a lot of different franchises that were not previously Disney franchises. Particularly, I'm thinking Marvel, Star Wars, and then most recently 20th Century Fox. So there are a lot of characters that within their separate universes are considered princesses. And I've proposed it to Ms. Diz before that some of these characters should be considered for Disney princessdom, and she's kind of shot me down. So I'm going to bring it up again. Characters like Princess Leia.
That one I think is the best contender because Disney's already trying to push it in, according to your list, they're trying to push it in Disney World. Like they have their Star Wars area. It's almost like they want her in there.
Or
No. So also another unofficial rule that I read somewhere in your list, which I don't know if we got there. Maybe we did. I can't remember. But is that these are all animated characters.
Oh.
Yeah,
so,
this is where I'm betraying the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should open it up because there's characters like Shuri and Black Panther.
I agree. I agree that it shouldn't just be, but it does kind of make sense. It would look weird to have like a human person, like a real life.
You can have them
figure,
drawn
an
in that
image.
style for the toys.
Sure,
and
you
stuff.
could have it, but for the toys, I agree. But I don't think that as far as having an image and what people are used to seeing on screen, like it would be very weird to see suddenly a Shuri animated drawn or
That makes
CGI like next to, or even just having like a real life person next to Rapunzel from Tangled, who is a CGI. Like it would just
But
be very
at
weird.
the parks, they're all in live action people wearing costumes anyway, so Shuri could just fit
This
in there.
is true, and that's where I kind of come in with the. But that is a reason why I would say actually that I would not consider them official Disney princesses because they haven't had official induction ceremonies into the Disney
So
world.
I'm saying they should.
Now, as a note, Princess Leia has been animated so many times that would circumvent a few problems, but you guys are right. She wasn't originally introduced in an animated series.
Right. And I do agree with you that Princess Leia is the best contender for that because she was always a princess. She has long time been in the Disney world over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So
We'll see what the next few years bring. Princess Contender! Tonight's Princess Leia! She comes from space and she'll throw down along with the other princesses. We'll see who comes out on top for the induction ceremony.
But like Anastasia now, that movie was produced by Fox and now it's under the Disney can. So how can she should be considered Disney princess?
but she wasn't originally created by Disney.
I know, but I'm saying we should massage the rules a bit to include these other characters because for me, I guess I define the Disney princess more on like a value. Like I see them as basically like virtuous characters that represent positivity in the
She
world.
killed Rasputin.
Well, I mean, lots of Disney princesses have killed people, but
No, I meant that as a good thing.
okay.
Lots of Disney princesses have
And from
killed
what I
people.
understand, like at some point Disney was involved with the making of Anastasia, so I don't see why. Like it's clearly made to look like a Disney movie. She seems like even more than Leia, I would argue, is like the perfect person to like if you're gonna grandfather people. Cause
So,
like
as a note, I didn't know that she wasn't, so this is kind of... Big
well, if you're going to
news.
go along that line, then, I'm not sure. Maybe you can share, Average Joe, who the creators of Odette from Swan Lake, the Swan Lake princess is. That isn't owned by Disney yet. They don't have the rights for that. But that's not a Disney princess. Like, she was created by the creators of that movie franchise.
All princesses
I'm pretty sure the
should come
Princess
under
Swan movie was made by Warner Brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, all princesses should just eventually be owned by Disney. They should just take over.
Or like the blue alien woman princess from Avatar. That's technically, and that's in the Disney parks, Pandora. So
jeez.
I
And
don't
she is
know.
animated?
I don't know that they have. What is her name?
I don't know because I've never seen Avatar. It's
gosh.
Zoe Saldana's character. That's all I know.
I don't know. I was going to call her Nala, but that's the... Nala, the blue alien with the lion's mane. You know, the Disney princess.
Let's call her Avatar Princess.
Avatar princess.
Yeah, Avatar Princess, I don't believe has like a meet and greet. Like she's never been like fully welcomed into or inducted into the
I mean, she
Disney
breaks the human
princesses.
rule.
Yeah, just a little bit. But a tad.
She's like humanoid. She's an alien.
So, would you accept her? Like, if they bended the rules about being from an animated film and whatnot, you can be honest. You have freedom to share your. She's.
I am conflicted about that because she's not like. But then, okay, she's not like a true princess in like the Disney-esque picture that's been painted of what is a Disney princess. But like, I guess Pocahontas is also like a native Aboriginal to the U.S.
Moana kind of fits that same.
And Moana fits that. She's a daughter of a chieftain, which online I read that they didn't consider Moana an official Disney princess because she's not of royal blood. And I was like, that's you in the same
She has the act of
article-
heroism going for her.
Yeah.
Well, not only does she have the act of heroism, but she's the daughter of a chieftain, which
Pocahontas
Pocahontas is also the daughter of a chieftain, and they said that in the same article. So I don't know where their logic is in
Weird.
that article that I was reading, but
Yeah, because like
Moana is a princess.
Mhm.
That's what I have to say.
if you went originally by the classic fairy tale aspect, it's really easy to tell the princesses apart. But now that you've got the additions of Pocahontas and Moana, like the definition is getting a bit broader. So I'm wondering if in the next few years, because of that, more princesses will be brought in, just because it still mentally matches this. Like, I'm thinking of platonic ideals. Like, you have this idea of Disney princess, and it's like it has all these little bits and pieces that from different like Cinderella informs that information a little bit. Pocahontas, like, it all forms this ideal, and as that ideal gets broader, it's going to be really interesting to see what they allow into that. So next couple years, yeah, interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, and this gets into the conversations I had at my office this week. I kind of, in preparation for our podcast, I sometimes just kind of bring things up in my lunchroom, and people end up like arguing with me about my opinions. Because basically, I was really ripping on the older Disney princesses, saying that they were characters that I didn't find very interesting. They were bad examples. They didn't have very much agency. Like
What do you mean bad examples?
Well,
as opposed to their fairy tale counterparts, like Cinderella was way more interesting in her original character because her stepsisters were more beautiful than she was. The reason the prince chose her was because she actually had an interior disposition of virtue in the original fairy tale.
Well, what I was trying to get at when I was arguing with my coworkers was
It's really cool.
was that the older princesses are very passive in the Disney versions of the stories. They're very passive. Like, things happen to them, and they don't seem to have a whole lot of agency. They don't have a lot of like, they're not really a protagonist of the story. Like, Sleeping Beauty is probably the worst example of this.
Yeah.
Aurora, literally, I think she maybe has like 10 lines of dialogue or something like that. She
sings more than she
speaks. Yeah, like she's more for a large chunk of the movie. She's a plot device as opposed to a central character.
But so is the original. Like, that's how it is in the original.
I
Sleeping
understand.
Beauty.
I'm not trying to say the Disney version, like the Disney ruined these characters, but I'm just saying that those characters inherently are less interesting to me. They show a kind of blasé. Like I said, like things happen to them. They're not very exciting. They weren't, for me at least, they weren't very exciting protagonists. And so if I were to compare them to the newer princesses that have been introduced, who are very not only just competent and they know how to fight or they know how to speak for themselves, or they're action oriented, I suppose is the word to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like they feel like more three-dimensional characters who have agency, who actually have control over their surroundings, and they're able to make choices that influence the story.
Mm-hmm. I was going to put the example as like Anna and Elsa, but actually Tiana is almost like the most like there's crazy stuff going on in her life, and she's like, nope, I'm just going to deal with this. Like we have to solve this problem before you die. And she's the one kind of bringing along the story because like he couldn't care less, but she's just like, no, you have to do this. And she's working towards that goal, which is really neat.
I have a confession to make. I've never seen
Princess and the Frog?
Yeah, The Princess and the Frog. I don't even know what it's called.
It's not well reviewed. It's worth seeing once, but in terms of a character having agency, she definitely works harder than Golden Age princesses. But like she has that kind of like...
She's also not a royal-born princess.
Nah, she just married into it.
And she's also from the 1920s and not
the 1920s?
Not from like the 1800s.
Oh, jeez.
So I feel like as far as the woman's role in those different eras, it was also quite different. And there was probably more room for someone, not a lot of room, but someone in the 1920s than someone in the 1800s.
Sure, that's a good point.
Yes and no. I will have one counter bit on this. Like from classic fantasy, there's so much in terms of like... female agency in like the Grimm's fairy tales of them like I will leave my home and I will like the three daughters, each of them leaves home, the eldest fails, the middle one gets lost, and the youngest one goes and solves the problem caused by the first two. Like they had to leave home and deal with...
What fairy tales are you referring to?
I'm thinking of the three daughters, but I don't know the official name of it. Like the eldest one goes off to learn a trade. The middle one goes off to be married, and then the youngest one realizes that the one who was married is captured in this castle. And then she goes in, breaks in, and frees her sister. But I don't remember what it is.
I'm not familiar with that fairy tale.
I will send it along.
One of the people who I got into my conversation with brought up the point that, and it's a point that's been it's been spoken to me before on this podcast even, is that as a guy, as a male, I'm drawn to certain traits and virtues in characters more than others. So someone like Snow White, who is very kind and empathetic and is a very excellent, like, loves taking care of other people and being a good hospitable. I'm not as interested in that kind of thing, so naturally I have a lower impression of her character. And the same person then proceeded to send me an article and a spreadsheet that kind of illustrates how biologically there are traits that are more dominant in males and females. Mm-hmm. So among the traits more dominant in females are empathy and being like a caretaker. Mm-hmm. So naturally, it's just my biological disposition. I'm not as attracted to those kind of things. Whereas, of course, like a masculine trait would be something like mental rotation ability.
I can see the spreadsheet from over here, and it's just like
task-oriented leadership, impulsivity. So the characters that are more like risk-takery are the ones that I'm.
You can't marry a man you just met. All the Disney princesses.
But again, like that's not a critique of Disney as much as like the storytelling in which a lot of these characters originated in some form of literature prior to Disney. So I feel like Disney's kind of gotten a bad rap for how they represent, like how their characters are represented, because
it's not the Disney princesses' fault. Mm-hmm. They were written that way.
Mm-hmm. And not just by Disney, but by whoever wrote them originally.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we've seen in the modern era, basically from Enchanted on, that Disney's continually poked fun at that old kind of storytelling. And then obviously with their newest version, like especially with Tangled on, they've really like challenged the traditional portrayal of the Disney princess. And then they went full steam ahead in Ralph Breaks the Internet, where they basically had a whole segment where they like make jokes about all the tropes that people are familiar with. So
thanks. No, good lord, who would do that? Have you ever had true love's kiss? Ew, bars! Do you have daddy issues? I don't even have a mom.
Neither do we! And now for the $1 million question. Do people assume all your problems got solved because a big strong man showed up?
Yes, what is up with that?
She is a princess!
You should watch that just for the fun. It's just like, wait, you're a princess? You don't look like a princess. Were you poisoned? No. Were you trapped in a... Okay.
I didn't see that clip. I did enjoy it.
Ladies, are you okay? Do I need to call the police?
As a Disney person, are you okay with this trend? Or do you find it's kind of like shaming the past? Like, what do you have thoughts on this whole phenomenon of changing Disney's approach to princesses?
Thoughts on changing Disney's approach to Disney princesses? No. I mean I do. I don't think there should be any Disney shaming, first of all. I think there's enough shaming going around in the world. But I think people who get upset about that like that, you kind of have to take the characters as they are. I don't know, like some of them, there's the argument that they're not the greatest role model for women or girl power or whatever. Probably those comments are more specifically aimed at the golden age classical Disney princesses that you ascribe to be one or two dimensional and lacking probably more heroism than subsequent Disney princesses. Mm-hmm. Although I would say it takes a lot of heroism just to be kind and gentle with people who are mistreating you. So I don't know that I think it shows a great depth of character and inner strength to continue to deal with those everyday challenges, which in a way is almost more relatable to anyone, because real life isn't fairy tales. As much as I love Disney and I love Disney princesses, I'm not going to slay a dragon ever.
What?
I know, right? So that's sort of a, I'm not going to bring back the heart of Tafiti and like restore the islands. That could be a metaphor maybe for cleaning up the oceans and stuff and taking care of our natural resources better. But at the same time, like it's not going to look the same. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to be a lot of, just a strength of moral character. And so
whereas beforehand, instead of like, oh, they're not doing anything that makes them heroic, it was a lot of their interior disposition and who they are, and their virtue is the heroism. Like, it is very difficult to it is not very difficult to do things that make you seem heroic, but it is very difficult to be a way that is not seen as heroic to be heroic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cinderella is a very virtuous how she spent all those years basically in indentured servitude to her stepfamily.
Yeah, and didn't complain. Like she didn't like it. She complained to the mice, but like it wasn't a thing of she didn't just like run away. And
unless on the surface you look at that and say, oh, she's just a really good good housekeeper.
Whereas like
you have to like dig deeper, I suppose, and that brings us back to like this idea that there are traits that are more associated with like the female mind than the male mind. So naturally, I see a person like that, I'm like, they're not as interesting or as interesting to me as Mulan, who is a trained fighter and a warrior and knows how to use a sword and fireworks and all this cool stuff.
And the stories I found were the merchant's 3 daughters and the Cinderella one. I haven't had the time to read it, but suggested reading for the future. The Cinderella one was amazing though, like the stepsister. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
I would say I do like the new remix because I think it pulls out like the Disney remakes of the live action.
Oh,
so the
right.
live action Cinderella does pull out that, she has this movie long adage that is have courage and be kind. And I don't think just because it wasn't said in the original version of that movie, I don't think that wasn't an element that was there. She was courageous and she was kind.
Like they were able to add that, and it fit her character because it's already a part of her character, no matter what. Makes sense.
As we're talking, I'm realizing there's so much to say about Disney princesses, but so it means that this allows us to if we stop now, it leaves us room to continue this conversation on another day. So let's conclude by naming our favorite Disney princess who's like part of the official grouping, whether it's the Disney World grouping or the Disney brand grouping. And then your favorite, let's call them non-traditional. So ones that aren't part of the grouping that could be. And we'll start with Pixel Patch here.
Okay, so non-canon one, Vanellope von Schweetz, just because teleporting. She's not my favorite character by a long shot. So anyways, we'll have that there.
Wait, you're saying if I just stare at some water... The important water. Right, of course. Important water. I stare at the important water and somehow magically I'll start singing about my dream?
For sure.
Yeah, I don't think so, ladies.
And maybe Princess Leia. Favorite canon one, yowza, this is really tough. I really like Rapunzel. I really enjoyed Tangled as a movie and her character, the way that it kind of just like she works from just being shut up in a tower and actually like is like, you know what? Nope, we're gonna deal with that. I really like that.
I can't believe I did this! I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did this! Mother would be so furious. But that's okay. I mean, what she doesn't know won't kill her, right? Oh my gosh. This would kill her. This is so fun!
What about you, Ms. Diz? Is it hard to pick favorites?
No, I have favorites.
Okay.
I'm
I love all my children.
So probably my OG original Disney princess favorite is Cinderella.
Why is that?
I love my girl Cindy. Probably because...
Do you remember the story of a girl who lived a life of cinders and how she found true love because she kept a beautiful dream in her heart? Of course, it helped that she had mouse friends who could sew and a fairy godmother who could do wonders with pumpkins. Well, that girl. He's me.
As a little girl, she had blonde hair and I had blonde hair, so I really connected with the blondes. Also loved Aurora. Aurora was I remember it being the first Disney princess movie that I received for Christmas when I was 7, and I remember watching it over and over and over again. So I do love that movie. Newer Disney princesses, for sure. Rapunzel from Tangled is my new favorite. I do appreciate her desire and not only her ability to dream, but her tenacity in wanting to live out that dream and be free and escape the tower and do something that she's always wanted to do. For non-canon Disney unofficial princesses, I want to say things like Nala from The Lion King and Maid Marian from Robin Hood. Those are probably my non-Disney canon. I know they're animals, but they are actually princesses in the storylines that they come from.
Maid Marian's just a really good one.
She is such a good, wholesome character. I just love her.
I don't even remember anything about her.
Oh, man. You need to rewatch that.
I just remember the rooster. That's the narrator. That's all I remember.
Ah, me, young love. Oh, it's a grand thing. Oh, Clucky, surely he must know how much I still love him. But of course, my dear. Believe me, someday soon, your Uncle King Richard will have an outlaw for an in-law. oh, Clucky. But when?
What about you?
I would say, if of the ones that are officially canonical in the brand of Disney princesses, probably Jasmine. I don't know why. I've always loved Aladdin, the Aladdin movies, and I don't know if it's because of the way she's dressed or whatever. As a kid, I was drawn to her character, but yeah, I like her. I like Mulan a lot too. I've always liked that movie as well, and just her, I don't know, her character arc is very interesting. But okay, I can't believe Moana's not part of the official grouping.
She is in the Walt Disney World, so I think you should get.
Oh, she is. Okay, good.
Bandwagon.
Okay, I take. Sorry, no offense to Jasmine or Mulan, but if Moana's been introduced at Disney World, then Moana's my favorite official Disney princess.
My job is to deliver Maui across the great ocean. I should be sailing.
It's called wayfinding, princess. It's not just sails and knots. It's seeing where you're going in your mind. Knowing where you are by knowing where you've been.
Okay, first, I'm not a princess. I'm the daughter of the chief.
Same difference.
No.
If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess.
Favorite non-traditional Disney princess probably be Shuri from Black Panther.
Oh, I agree with that too. Yeah.
Or Kida from Atlantis.
I would also. Those are solid choices. Yeah.
I just love the ones that I guess have war paint on their faces.
War paint, more war paint.
You sure it's a good idea to take your ex on a mission?
Yes. And what are these?
The real question is, what are those? Why do you have your toes out in my lap?
But you don't like my royal sandals.
More princesses, more power.
So there you guys go. What do you think? Do you want us to talk about Disney princesses again? Let us know.
There's so much. Now that I've got into it, it's just oh my gosh. And if you want to contact the show for questions or an idea for an episode, you can send us an email to
batjarpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can Twitter tweet Twizzlers. You can Twizzler at us at
the Bat Cookie Jar
on Twitter, on Twizzler. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. We recently added YouTube.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Average Joe. That has been a huge addition. SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast, we added it to YouTube. If we are not on your favored podcast listening app, just let us know. And if you listen to them on there, rate them.
Because if you rate it, we show up more. And if we show up more people listen. And more people listen, we create more geeks and more nerds.
And subscribe.
Share our posts on Facebook whenever we post a new episode. That really does help a lot because we're like, hey, these two geeks are talking about this cool stuff.
So we're not going to go into the bat jar this week because next week's talk's already decided. We're going to be talking about Shazam!
Shazam!
Can I come back for next week as well?
We're just going to laugh and scream. And
it has been a trope in this show that guests kind of come back week to week. So if you really want to come back, you know where we are, you know when we do it. So
I do know where you live.
I do know it.
Wait, we don't record where I live. Let's keep my secret identity a secret here. We have
See, that's what he edits out, my passive-aggressive comments.
We have the Bat Jar studio. It's an undisclosed location, just so people are clear.
Inside the Bat Jar.
I do know where your Bat Jar lives.
Thank you. There you go. That's better.
We put it on a truck. It rotates.
So, Ms. Diz, we thank you for joining us this week and bringing your Disney insight. You're the first guest we've ever had who came dressed for the occasion. Like you're wearing a set of Mickey Mouse ears that are styled after Cinderella's carriage.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, high fives to both of you. You for having that hat. You for, unless she told you.
I told him.
Okay, there you go. That is amazing.
You can take back the high five.
I've been trying to figure this out the entire time, actually. I'm like, I know it's Mickey
These are my
Mouse.
Disney ears.
Okay, that makes sense. That's awesome.
So thank you for joining us, Ms. Diz. And if you really want to come back next week, talk about Shazam, you know where we are.
Shazam.
You're welcome to.
Thank you for having me, Average Joe and Pixel Patch.
Welcome.
So there you go. We're talking about Shazam next week.
We're going to go to the dirty subway of our souls and gain new magic powers.
Yeah. So until next time, when we talk about Shazam, I'm Average Joe.
I'm Pixel Patch.
I'm Miss Diz.
Catch you on the flip side.
One pixel at a time.
Bye-bye.